Namaskar. We are discussing biopsychology of yoga, the topic of chakras, and today is Anahata Chakra. Anahata Chakra is number 4. It is located in the middle of the body. If you draw the line through the nipples and then another line in the middle of the body like that, and then the crossing point will be the exact location of the Anahata Chakra. So there are 3 chakras below and 3 chakras above. Those below, they constitute the stage of animality, and chakras above, they are divinity, they are spirituality. So Anahata Chakra is that crossing point, that silver lining, that tangential point between animality and divinity. And that is what? That is the stage of humanity. In Anahata Chakra, we will have to take the decision to choose the path. Here, the mind becomes sentient. Maybe you heard that concept that within the body, the 3 forces are manifest. Those forces called Tamaguna, static principle, Rajaguna, mutative principle, or dynamic principle, and Sattvaguna, sentient principle, subtle force. Those forces, they are creative forces of nature. I will not talk much about them because it is entirely another topic, it is quite big. But I will say that Tamaguna, the static principles, works in the 3 lower chakras, from the point of Muladhara to Manipura. Then, between the Manipura and Anahata Chakra is the region of Rajaguna, mutative principles, dynamic principle. And then finally, from Anahata Chakra up to Agya Chakra, there is a domain, the sphere of sentienthood, the sentient force. So what does it mean that mind becomes sentient? Mind here becomes self-aware. It is becoming capable of making its own choices. So here, at the level, once we reach that sentienthood, and once we acquire the ability of free choice, then we will have to decide whether to move further along the path of evolution or turn back and degenerate to the stage of animality. So the main characteristic of Anahata Chakra is that decision power. Here at Anahata Chakra, we will have to decide, we will have to choose our path, we have to choose our destiny. That is why this center becomes the most important, most essential in spirituality. My spiritual master has said, humanity is, in its fullest sense, is a divinity. So humanity becomes divinity. By entering Anahata Chakra, we enter the domain of spirituality. The spirituality here is in a very rudimentary stage. It is very basic. But from here it starts. And the vrittis of Anahata Chakra, like in the Manipura Chakra and Svadhisthana Chakra and Muladhara Chakra, we can say that those expressions, mental expressions, they are primitive, and most of the time they act also as a negative forces in our lives. The chakras above, Vishuddha and Agya Chakra, they contain the very superhuman, the very advanced expressions of the mind, and they are positive forces. But here at the Anahata Chakra, vrittis, they are undecided whether to be positive or be negative. If the mind is goaded towards spirituality, the expressions of Anahata Chakra, they become like a golden expressions of the mind, most valuable human treasures. And if the mind moves towards physicality, to the mundanity, those very emotions, they become very mundane, and finally they lead also to degeneration. So here Anahata Chakra will have to decide whether to move along the path of spirituality or the path of mundanity. And that is the most crucial choice in our life. So the health of Anahata Chakra is extremely important. Is extremely important because either the new dawn of spirituality or the worn out skeleton of the past, the death itself, because degeneration means death. Eventually it means self-destruction. Yeah, in spirituality, the value of Anahata Chakra is immense. Let us explore this center. I will explain the basic idea about Anahata, then we will explore very deeply in details the vrittis, the expressions of the mind on this level, and then finally we will talk about the methods, how does the yoga transforms this center. And I have seen it with my own eyes, that people who start practicing the exercises, the practices, the meditations of the complete holistic system of yoga, how they blossom, how they transform into something almost superhuman. Humanly superhuman, I would say. Yeah, I've seen it with my own eyes. I see it today, I've seen it yesterday, I will see it tomorrow. So, and then, yeah, in the end I will explain the techniques to open up Anahata Chakra. Okay, let us start with the overview. Anahata. Anahata the name refers to Anahata Nada. What is Anahata Nada? It is a mystical experience. There is a sound, subtle sound. It is believed in yoga philosophy that this universe is the production of sound, is the result of sound. It is made of light and sound. It is made of waves. The original wave is the sonic one, is the wave of the sound. And then when that wave gets crudified, slowly it transforms into the crude expressions. But the root, the source is the sound. That's why in Christianity it is said, first was the sound. So that sound, actually, the primordial sound, can be heard. That primordial sound is Omkara, Om sound. But the initial expression you can hear at the Anahata Chakra in the form of sweet sound of the flute. When the mind becomes very calm and peaceful and introvert, when it goes inside, then that sound starts to manifest itself. And then when the mystic hears that sound, he becomes intoxicated and he becomes attracted towards the state of ecstasy. Anyway, let us not become too mystical yet. There are many things yet to discuss. But Anahata refers to that kind of sound. And then also, not only in India, not only in yoga culture, but also in other traditions such as Sufism, they give great importance to the sound. And they also describe that experience of Anahata Chakra, the sound experience, Anahata Nada. Anahata is controlling air element of the body. What is air element? It is not oxygen, hydrogen, CO2, nitrogen. It is nothing like that. None of those gases. Air element means subtle energy that works within the body. It is unseen, and it is performing a number of vital functions, such as function of breathing, function of hunger, It puts us to sleep from wakefulness, and so on. There are 10 vital airs with different functions. Prana, Apana, Samana, Vyana, Udana, Naga, Kurma, Krikara, Devadatta, Dhananjaya. These airs are there. Airs, they're described like airs. Actually, it is subtle energies working within. I will give another class on prana, and it is very interesting class because knowing that energy, it is on the border of miracle, no? But today it will be enough just to say that this vital energy, which is in Sanskrit, this collective name of all those 10 energies, is called pranaha. And in China they call it chi. So this pranaha, vital energy of the body, exercises a great amount of influence over the mind. If the pranaha is restless, irregular, the mind becomes restless. The mind loses all its higher capabilities. The mind cannot think, cannot concentrate, cannot memorize, cannot remember, and then intuition also becomes absent. When the prana becomes calmed down, then the mind becomes sharp. I've seen it with my eyes, you know, the examples of people who controlling this prana. Anyway, by saying this, I just wanted to say that since Anahata chakra controlling that air element, then in Anahata chakra there is a key to control the mind. There is a key to control the mind. Also, at the physical level, anyway, later a little bit I'll tell, the animal symbolism of the chakra is antelope. Antelope is kind of deer or what it, yeah, antelope with the horns. It is a nice animal, very light, very beautiful. There is no barbarism in it. It is very gentle, but it is also very cautious. It moves. The moment it is here, next moment it is there. It doesn't stay at one place. It moves like a wind. Anahata chakra is like that. Anahata chakra has to move. It is gentle, but it has to move because it is constantly taking a complex decisions about our actions, about our thoughts. The moods of Anahata chakra changes all the time. It is very mobile. It is trying to adjust with the changing environment and trying to find the proper path. So that is antelope nature of Anahata chakra. And then in the mandala of Anahata chakra here, mandala means circle. In the circle of Anahata chakra there is a gland. That gland is called thymus. When I read about that gland, I was so surprised how the function of that gland is so much in tune with the mental function of Anahata chakra. Thymus gland is a part of immune system. When we are born, it is big like that. And then we are 70 years or 80 years old, that gland almost disappears. There is a gradual involution of the gland as we grow. Slowly it is transformed into the fat tissue and it is gone, is no more. So what does that gland do? That gland is the training center for the immune system. The blood cells in thymus gland are turned into the killer cells, into the police and soldiers of our body. There they are trained. How they are trained? They are transmitted the ability to discriminate between right and wrong. They will have to find many pathogens within the body. Our immune system is so smart, it can distinguish about 1 million pathogens, microbes, viruses, and also inner anomalies, inner troubles, such as cancer cells. You know, the cancer, the news is that we all have cancer. Many times in our life we had cancer. The cancer cells are constantly produced within our body. But since the immune system is strong, they are destroyed before they can form dangerous tumors. So, I was talking about this immune system. That immune system, the cells, they're trained how to find the enemies within the structure. So, they're trained to see and understand the evil. And then another function, there is a positive selection. First, after the training is complete, then all those T cells, you know, all those cadets of the police, they come for testing. And then they're tested. If you learned how to see the evil, how to destroy the evil, then okay, you pass. Those who didn't learn, they are destroyed. And then another test is there. It's called negative selection. Those, the cells have to show the ability to see their own organs, their own body, and their own immune system, and not to attack the good ones. And if they didn't learn that, they also destroyed. So this is exactly the way our conscience works. The choice of the path. We have to understand what is right and what is wrong, and then take the right path. So immune system is a reflection of really the Anahata chakra of the mental level. Anahata chakra exercise the great amount of influence over our immune system. Some doctors believe that 90% of our diseases are mental, psychic, psychosomatic diseases. Means they start from the mind and then slowly they come to the level of the physicality. They express as the physical illnesses. Even we can say, of course, there are microbes, viruses, but some people they catch disease and some people do not. Just recently we had a story. We had a program, 140 people have come for 1 week in our retreat center, and we did, you know, intense spiritual practices. It was in the winter, so we all were in a very, you know, small space, and we could not expand because we have not yet built enough houses. We were happy, but some people came sick. Now next year I'm going to build, you know, a special house for those who are sick. I will put there. So some people came sick, and then slowly it was a powerful virus, and that virus started to spread and spread and spread and spread, and people were, you know, down one after another, and I was just like, oh, what's going on? And then at one day, and I have to, you know, as a host, I have to take care for people. I have to also, as a teacher, I have to guide them in meditation and do so many functions. But one day I felt, I'm falling sick. I'm going to be sick. At that moment I remember some switch went in my mind. I thought, no, I cannot, I have no right to become sick, and I will not become sick. I will not do it. There was this decision. There was like a turning point. I was already, you know, the fever started to come and all. And then there was a turning point in my mind. No, I'm not going to be sick. And then within 15 minutes, all the symptoms are gone. And I didn't get sick, nor during the program, nor after the program, because of inner decision. But the pathogen was there. But also Anahata chakra was strong enough to fight that pathogen. I will tell you a few stories more. There was this, it is a famous story, you can find it, you can Google it out. There was this patient called Mr. Wright. WRIGHT. So he was a patient of lymphosarcoma, means the cancer of lymphatic nodes. His groins, abdomen, neck, everything was affected. His tumors were the size of oranges, everywhere in the body. And due to those tumors in the lungs, a milkish substance was produced. And 2/4 of this milkish substance had to be sucked out of the lungs, otherwise he would not be able to breathe. So without maintenance, he would not survive a day. His doctor didn't believe he will last more than 1 week. But one day, hospital has received new experimental medicine, which was supposed to be a miraculous cure for that lymphatic glands cancer. Doctors didn't want to spend that expensive medicine on a hopeless patient because that medicine to work, it needed 3 months of administration. But he was going to have only 1 week, so why bother? But he heard that new medicine is there, and he started to beg. He said, please, 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 give me that medicine. I just know it will help me. I just know it will cure me. So doctor thought, okay, out of compassion, he has administered 1 dose of the medicine, and they went to the holiday. He thought that when he will come back on Monday, the Mr. Right will not be there. But when he came back on Monday, Mr. Right was not in bed. He was walking the corridors, joking with the nurses, drinking Coca-Cola. His tumors shrunk twice in size. In next 10 days, they disappeared. Doctor has described they melted like snowballs on the hot stove. He came out of hospital, very happy, prizing this medicine. And he was living like that 2 months, taking the medicine. Then, after 2 months, one article came out that this Crebiozen is probably useless medicine. He read it, his faith was shaken a bit, and again tumors start to reappear. When he saw his doctor decided to become tricky for the benefit of the patient. He said, you know, last time you took adulterated and spoiled kind of Crebiozen. Now I have a new shipment of the very, very potent extra pure Crebiozen. I'm going to give you, most definitely is going to cure you. So he was again convinced, and the doctor gave him a pure water, no medicine. For another 2 months he was healthy. But then the Crebiozen was sent to 10 hospitals, you know, to verify its efficiency. And all those hospitals, they came up with the articles, and they were blaming that this Crebiozen is completely useless medicine, has no therapeutic value whatsoever. So when he read those articles, he lost faith in his treatment, and then tumors reappeared again, and then within 2 days, they were more than ever before, and then he died. So you see, that is the power of the mind over the body. We normally think, we take our health as an objective thing, as a product of the physical co-workings of many factors. But we should also know that the mind has a great effect of the body. the functions are quite miraculous. We have still not yet understood, we have still not yet studied enough to understand why it is like that. But it is like that. Another story is about a person. He was having, multiple personality disorder. So he had two personalities, switching, time to time. Sometimes he's like that, sometimes he is like that. So one personality was diabetic. When he wakes up and he realizes, oh, where am I? How did I come here? And that personality is a diabetic. And he would suffer. He would suffer the disease of diabetic. And all the tests, they would show the high blood sugar and so on and so on. It was, all the tests would show that he is most definitely a diabetic person. But the moment he would switch back to his healthy personality, not diabetic personality, all the blood sugar, all the parameters, they would normalize. For me, it is quite incredible. So the mind curves the body. Mind makes the body. So we should attempt to know the mind and to change the mind. Emotions are extremely important. Like also I started to talk about health, physical health. It is proven, it is established fact that people who use the support groups, like patients of cancer, alcoholics, they use the support group. They have much higher chance of survival and cure in comparison with those who do not join any support group. So it speaks something about our how we are, and the influence of the mind, because this is due to the mind. Okay. And Anahata, on the mental level, it contains 12 propensities. They are half negative, half positive, and those propensities, if they are connected with spirituality, they become positive, and if they are moving towards physicality, towards lower chakras, means what is connected with spirituality. If the propensities of the mind, they are tuned into the higher centers, they are getting inspiration, they are getting momentum from the higher centers, from the higher energy, from the higher understanding, then they become good. And then if they are getting momentum from the lower energies, lower vrittis, lower chakras, they become negative. They create hell in our lives. Have you ever experienced pain in the heart? Mental pain in the heart? Heartbroken, you say. Heartbroken. Is it nice? No, it's not nice at all. So they can be they can be positive, they can be negative. Okay, let us now explore the propensities of the mind. I will start with Chesta vritti. Chesta is the ability to make an effort, to endeavor. The difference, like the most fundamental basic difference between animal mind and human mind, is that animal mind is reactive. It moves only by the pressure of external circumstances. It means it will only react to the environment. It doesn't have its own will to move. But the human mind, like this American psychologist, this Stephen Covey, he gives these two nice, terms, reactive and proactive. But human mind is proactive. It means this mind will move on its own. It will decide. It is my own decision. That's why I'm doing this. I'm doing this not because of you or because of you or because of you. I'm doing it because I believe this has to be done. And that is the main difference between negative thinking and positive thinking. Negative thinking, you think that, oh, he, she, it is to blame for my failures. You are completely dependent on the environment. But here, at the human psychology, no. You are shaping your own environment. You are even your own body you can shape, not to speak about your own environment. And you are taking your own decisions. So that ability to make an effort, that ability to endeavor, is a very, very human quality. And that quality is strong when the Anahata chakra is strong. That is why we say he has a lion heart. We don't say he has a lion stomach or lion brain. No, lion heart. Because only with the heart we're able to endeavor, to fight, to struggle, and finally succeed. Without heart, cannot do. Even we understand in our mind what has to be done, but if the heart is weak, we cannot do. So I started with that vritti because it is fundamental to every success. For the success in mundane sphere, you need it. For the success in spiritual sphere, you need 10 times more of that. And that is why heart has to become strong. The next vritti is called viveka. And it is second most fundamental vritti, or the first. I mean, it is really the most important vritti. Viveka is the ability to discriminate between good and evil, right and wrong, physical and spiritual, temporal and eternal. It is the ability to discriminate. What is another name for that ability? Conscience. Conscience. Inner seeing. Inner seeing. Quiet voice of the heart. Intellect and intuition. Intellect is quite an imperfect mechanism because it is first slow. It has to slow. First it is slow, and second it is you need to have many variables to arrive to a complete and proper decisions. But often we don't have many variables. We don't have all the variables. We just see the part of the situation. We see only, small segment of the reality. We don't see the complete picture. So how to decide? How to know? We don't know future. We don't know past. Even the present we don't know. How to find the proper path? How will the mind know that it is taking proper decisions? And that is why we are endowed with the faculty of intuition. And that faculty of intuition, the first expression is in the heart, in the form of this viveka. In the heart, we don't know why, but somehow we know what has to be done. First of all, this viveka guides us to follow morality. Morality is not man-made. It is not a human thing. It is not we developed or invented morality. Rather, we discovered morality because it is ingrained in the living organism. It is not a creation of religion. It is not a creation of philosophy. It sprouts from our inner nature. We call it dharma in yoga. It sprouts from our dharma, the morality. And what is that morality? Morality is a guiding force, set of guiding principles that allows human mind to take step along the path of progress, to develop further and not to degenerate into the stage of animality. And that's why morality is a very dynamic force. It is not a set of principles, written in the book. Because book cannot describe life. Morality is the state of equilibrium. You have to find harmony, you have to find balance, you have to find equilibrium. That's why that antelope of the heart has to watch and listen. The ears have to go like that all the time and sense the environment and understand what is now the right thing to do. So that ability of discrimination is in Anahata Chakra. Now, all the vrittis, if they are connected with that ability, if that ability is developed, you hear your conscience very strongly. If that ability is developed, then all other vrittis working together with that ability becomes goaded to the spirituality, and they become positive. For example, the vritti of effort, which we already discussed, if it is goaded to physicality, mundanity, it becomes what? Stubbornness. Yes, you persist, you persevere, but you are just a stupid donkey. Stubborn and stupid. Yeah, because stubbornness means stupidity. But if the same vritti is directed towards spirituality, is mixed with the subtle intellect and subtle intuition, it becomes determination, an ability to make an effort to evolve, to complete yourself. Okay. Then, how to develop viveka? How to develop viveka? First, helps following moral principles of yoga, yama and niyama. Those principles, they represent that subtle equilibrium. But those principles, as I said, is not a set of fixed principles. It's a living equilibrium. So we have to practice them, not just knowing them. Practice and find out how to apply them in our mundane day-to-day life. So first you accept the principles of morality, and then verify it if they are, finding response in your heart. You feel they are true or not. Then you accept them after the proper deliberation and understanding. You accept them as true. Then you start to follow those principles, and then slowly you start to get this taste of morality, taste of your heart. You start to feel what is the path of your heart. So that is why the necessity of the spiritual path, the necessity of the spiritual guru, because you have to follow somebody until you don't know what does your heart says. And then after acquiring the taste, after acquiring this practical experience, then you can distinguish. So first you are getting trained, then you act on your own. So that's how this vritti is developed. Anyway, later on I will summarize, I will say that what are the practices to develop Anahata Chakra in general, and then also what are the practices to balance every vritti of Anahata Chakra. Okay, next vritti is called Asha. Asha means hope. Hope. Quite positive, sounds quite positive. And yes, it's true, because hope gives us strength. Without hope, we have no strength to move. The endeavor, ability to make an effort doesn't work. You must have hope. So people hope, oh, I'm going to build this house, I'm going to get this education, I'm going to marry such and such person, I am going to practice and then finally achieve liberation. I'm going to do yoga, I'm going to do meditation, then finally achieve mystical state. You know, these are the drives, these are the motivations. They are pushing us to move ahead. But the hope also is often misguided. For example, you need to wake up and move and do and struggle, but you hope, everything is going to be okay. So in that case, that hope is connected with the vritti of lying, which is also in Anahata chakra, I will tell later. You lie to yourself and you hope. That hope is misguided. And then if the hope is linked with physicality, with mundanity, it is always comes with a worry. Because in the mundane sphere, is there something absolutely trustworthy? Is there such a thing? I don't think so. Even this earth is not trustworthy. The moment may come that, you know, some asteroid will come and, you know, get this earth pulverized. Can we trust anything in the material sphere? No, we cannot. That is why once we place our hope on something which is not eternal, then, because we feel intuitively that it is not working, then the worry comes. Then the worry comes. Worry is the next vritti, called chinta. And worry, what is the expression of worry? When we worry, we think. We create a picture and visions, and we try to calculate all different options. This might have happened, this might have happened, this may happen, this will happen. And we try to see what I'm going to do if this or that will happen. That's called worry. So it is basically thinking. You think, deep thinking. You get drawn in your thought. You think. Okay, let us see if the hope and worry is connected with spirituality, what will happen. If your hope is working together with the vritti of viveka, the voice of the heart, what will happen? It will become what? It will become faith. What is faith? Faith is inner knowledge. You just know this is the right thing. And then everybody else may convince you otherwise. But you just know this is right. And that becomes faith. All the great achievements, they are done not through intellect. They are done through faith. They are done by visionaries, by dreamers. So, everything is a product of faith. Like, you know, this Steve Jobs, he's addressing Stanford students. And his message is very simple. He's saying, guys, don't be afraid of anything. Do what your heart says. And he narrates his story, and yeah, I think maybe you have seen. I advise you to see if not. Do what your heart says. You may not understand why, but I tell you, the dots will connect and make the line. You will see your path. You will find the purpose of life. You will understand what was your mission and why you have to go through all those experiences. Because you were prepared for the mission. You were being prepared for a mission, for the purpose of life. I will give you an example of this viveka, listening and faith. This place where we are sitting now is our yoga retreat center called Ananda Shivani in Siberia, Russia. We started to build it 3 years ago. I was busy traveling, giving lectures, and I was quite happy and content with my life. I was doing what I like to do, But at one moment, I just felt I should not give lectures anymore. I should stop and I should start building a concrete material project. I should start building a home for the spiritual aspirants, which I am taking care for, so that they have a place to meditate, to evolve, to expand their mind, their consciousness. I felt it inside. Then I shared with my friends and they said, Dada, you don't have money, you don't have experience, you don't have knowledge, you don't have people to do it. How are you going to do it? And yes, it was quite logical. I thought, how I'm going to do it? And then almost I gave up. But in meditation, whenever I would concentrate and when the mind becomes still, I would just feel again, you must do it. I must do it. Then I thought, okay, I will take the first step, then we'll see. So I started to look for the land. Then we found money and we purchased the land. Then we started to construct. Within 3 months we constructed basic infrastructure and we had held the first retreat conference and people were so happy. And then finally within 3 years we constructed a beautiful place. And then, I don't know, God knows how all these things came to make it possible. It is a product of the faith. Just internally you know. My friend also says that sometimes I have no solutions for the problem, and he is an engineer, so he's building different things like ventilation systems and electricity systems, things like that. He said sometimes the solution is too expensive or too inconvenient and too time taking. He said, but Dada, I just come and I sit in yoga center, don't even meditate, but whenever my mind becomes calm in that serene environment of the yoga center, then just like SMS comes to your telephone, the knowledge comes. Oh, like that, such a beautiful solution. He said, this is a miracle. I said, no, this is not miracle, this is your intuition. This is your heart working. Anyway, I was talking about faith. So faith, due to faith, every progress of humanity takes place. First, you have to see into the future. You have to get this intuitive feeling that this has to be done. Then, worry, thinking, transforms into vision, into dreaming. You become a dreamer. You become a visionary, in a good sense of the word. You can also become, a dreamer, lost in your fantasies. It's the same vritti, but no positive expression, negative expression of the same vritti. But motivated by that inner voice of the heart, you become a visionary. Like this Martin Luther King. He was, in his famous speech, he told, I have a dream. Huh? He said like that. I have a dream. So with that power of the heart, you inspire people. You bring the people together. You guide the people also on the path of their freedom, on the path of their progress. So definitely it becomes a positive vritti. Next comes also the most important vritti of spirituality, actually. That vritti is called mamata. Mamata translates as love, but literal translation is little more than love. It is the feeling of mineness. Why do I love? Because you are mine. The mind grows in magnitude. It unfolds. First, it is encapsulated in the tiny shell. and then it unfolds, it spreads. In Svadhisthana chakra, there is no interaction with the world. There is a, caviar particle, a small egg, and you are sitting in that egg, and you only take from the world. Means you come out of your shell only to take pleasure. You don't establish any link with the world. You are small, tiny. In the Manipura chakra, you come out. You make a bond with the object of enjoyment. So you spread a bit. But you are dependent on those objects. And here in Anahata chakra, you become self-contained. You are happy from inside. And you don't want to take anymore, you want to give. And that feeling of giving is mamata. I want to give. And when you are giving, when you are serving, you start to feel that affection. Affection means feeling of mineness. You are mine. Actually, you are me. You and me are one. So I feel myself spreading out and becoming one with the world, loving the world. So mamata is developed through the feeling of service. When you start to serve, you start to love. I remember sometimes somebody brought a dog, puppy, and just drop it with me. And I was upset because it was not my decision to take that dog. But anyhow, dog came. So after one day, I thought that I have to take care. Anyway, the dog is not responsible for that irresponsible man. So I have to feed. Then I start to give food to the dog. Then I start to feel little. Then I had to build the house. I didn't take it in the house, but I had to build outside house. When I built the house, I thought, need to make it warm, to insulate it. I insulated. Then I put the door on the house. So I made a nice dwelling for the dog. And then I come again and I feed. I watch how the dog eats. I start to feel something. And then after 4, 5, 6, 7 days, I understand that I love this dog. First I was just like, this dog, I hate this dog. Who brought this dog to me? But after serving that dog, you love that dog. So service develops that, it makes you transpersonal. It makes you vast. It develops the feeling of love. So love is developed through service. One time, acquaintance of mine, he's very old monk. Maybe he's served as monk for 50 years. And, basically whole his life, what he was doing is trying to serve humanity. Whatever he could, whatever resources and time and energy he had, he gave to humanity. He was in one yogic retreat, and he came to the stage and he was giving inspirational talk. So he introduced himself in a very peculiar way. It really inspired me. You may think it is arrogant thing to say, but I tell you, there was no complex. It was such a purity in his heart, how he spoke. He said, I am an avaduta. Avaduta means renunciate monk. I'm an avaduta, and I'm a king of this world. And I am a king of this world. He spent his life serving this earth. So naturally, everything of this earth, everything of this world is his, as his own part. In the spiritual aspirants feels joy when somebody is happy, and feels sorrow when somebody is suffering. So once you spend your life serving this earth, the world, you feel it is mine. I am the father of this planet. I have to take care, I have to love, I have to protect. That's the feeling of love. That's the feeling of mindness. It may be small, to a few objects, or it may become vast to the entire universe. And that is the mystical path. My guru once asked, what is the criteria of spiritual advancement? How do you know if the person is developing spiritually or not? Maybe degenerating? By the periphery of his love. If his heart is vast, if he can encompass the entire creation with his love, then he is spiritual. And then if his heart is like this, very small, and has no space for anybody, then that is not spirituality. Many times yogis, they do pranayama, they do meditation, hatha yoga, asana, this, that. But the heart is so small. And that means spirituality is not there, is not present. So that love is really the feeling, is the seed of transpersonal life. Because you are not anymore this self. You are everything. You are everywhere. So that vritti is prized in Christianity, in Sufism, in Vaishnavism, in India, in Europe, everywhere. That love, the value of love is understood. But we speak many times love. We don't actually know what is love. No, mostly we say I love you, I am attached to you, I am infatuated with you, I want to get some pleasure from you. It's not the real love. Real love means I want to give you something. Come, I will give you something. That is love. So that love is developed through service. Next comes vikalata, means depression. Useful vritti. Because what is depression? Depression, it is because you are living artificial life. You were destined to become great, but you chose the path of mediocreness. You have chose a mediocre life. Yeah, you have chose to be like everybody, and you have nipped that greatness in the bud within yourself. You chose the path to follow the physicality and not the spirituality. And the depression is very useful because it gives us the signal. It's just like a symptom of disease. It's not bad, but it rings the bell. Hello, hello, wake up, wake up. Today, start moving on the path of greatness, and the depression will be gone. Of course, depression has physical, ecological, many other factors, but the main factor is this: not knowing the path of your heart. I will give one example. In many cities in Russia, wherever we have groups of people practicing meditation, we try to do whatever service we can. So, like, we go to the old people houses, we go to the children homes, we make concerts, also we distribute food, we make the address help, like if there is old people who have no, care, we try to care for them. Like this, small things, small acts of kindness we try to do. And one type of service we try to do is we feed homeless people. Once a week we make pot of soup and we bring to a certain spot, and people come and we give to them. So one lady, she was very depressed, and then somebody inspired her. You come to feed. And then she was feeling, oh, these homeless people, you know how we are, that we believe that somebody is higher and somebody is lower. So, oh, these are homeless, I hate them. No, you must come. Okay, she came. With her own hands, she gave food to the needy people. And then she just felt different. She just felt these people, they're not lower. We are the same. Same soul is there within him, within me. that soul seeks for love, and this soul seeks to give love and also to feel love. She came back very high. She said, last 7 years I was in depression. And today, for the first time, I breathe in the, fresh air. Now I feel so different. So with that service, if the depression comes when we live for ourselves, when we start to live for others, without expecting anything in return. Sometimes people do service, but it is not actually service. They expect to receive something. Then it's not working like that. But when you really do with your love, with your heart, then it overcomes negative vritti of Anahata chakra. Depression is kind of negative positive vritti. It may kill you because if you really feel depression for a long time, it's so horrible, so difficult. It's so painful. Yeah. And if people in depression, really so much compassion we should feel, and help. But actually the help, yeah. So depression is it may kill. It may open the doors for all kinds of diseases, because the thymus gland becomes depressed also. And the cancer may come. Actually, there is research. Dr. Lawrence Leshan, he has examined the stories of 300 patients suffering from leukemia, the cancer of blood. He found the same pattern, that these people in the childhood, they were depressed. They were they didn't have any feeling, any meaning of life. And then later on they found something meaningful, and then they lost it. Maybe it was inspiring, exciting job and career, or maybe beautiful wife, and then they lost it. And then within 3 years they developed the disease of cancer. So depression is described as a disease of swollen tears. The tears, pain of the heart. So we should not keep that pain in the heart. And then one way to overcome is service. Another way is through exercises, through physical exercise that will activate the Anahata chakra, such as Kaushiki dance, running, Tandava dance, yogic dances, and certain asanas. Okay, next comes Anutapa. Anutapa means repentance. You have done something wrong and you feel it. One time, one lady, I will say she's my sister. I feel so close to her. And she's so good and noble. And I told her something, slipped my tongue. But something very mean I told her, unpleasant. Immediately, I just felt, I felt pain in my heart. I felt repentance. I cannot meditate for 2 days. Then I come to her and say, yesterday I said this. I should not have said. She said, Dada, I have already forgotten it. But yes, you shouldn't have said that. And then I say, please, sorry. So we have done something, we feel repentance. It is there in the heart. Even we have forgotten, it is still there. The seed of that trespassing to the area of beyond the morality is torturing us. So in yoga it is prescribed the method of, like in Christianity they confess to the priest. So we also do. We talk to spiritual teacher or a close friend who will not misuse that information. We will admit the mistake I have done. If any mistake has been done, unknowingly or unconsciously, you must admit it immediately and ask for rectification. Means after you have spoken out, you have to be ready to admit and do penance. Something you have to do to purify, to clear your heart. Like, for example, you make some service. You boil the soup, you decide, I will make a pot of soup, and during 4 weeks, I will go and feed homeless. Maybe for the entire life. at least this I will have to do. At the same time I will serve the humanity, and same times I will do the penance. Penance means I will do some discomfort, some suffering. I will undergo to purify my heart. Or I will fast. Fasting is also good. Fasting means if you abstain from food and water during one day, it is also very good. Okay. So Anutapa, repentance. We should not be in conflict with our conscience. Repentance comes when we have conscience, when we hear the conscience, but we do not follow the conscience. And it is also good vritti, because it directs us to the proper path. But if we don't follow that also, it will destroy. It will create disease within us, even on the physical level, due to the guilt feeling. Okay, let us discuss some egoistic vrittis. One vritti is dambha. Dambha means to be in love with yourself. When you love to see the reflection in the mirror, when you receive the collective photo, which face do you look for first? Your own face, right? So that is the expression of Dambha vritti. Vanity. I'm in love with myself. and vanity, a positive expression that, due to vanity we try to be good and pleasing to others. So we really become better. And people say, you are so smart, you are so spiritual, you are so strong. Oh yeah, really? You think so? You believe so? And then you acquire strength. Then you can make effort, you can move the mountains. But in the opposite, if somebody says, oh, you stupid idiot, what you have done, then your heart gets closed. Like in Russia, we have a particular expression. We say, my hands have fallen down. Hands, Anahata chakra is connected with the hands and also the sense of touch. I didn't say that in an introduction. So hands, if the Anahata chakra overflows, what will happen with the hands? The hands will go like that. And the runners, when they cross the finish line, most of them, they do like this. Also, when the football players, they score the goal, what they do? Like that. On the concert, if you're overflown with the emotions, what you want to do? This. So that is the expression of overflowing, full Anahata chakra, powerful with energy. And what is the expression of powerless Anahata chakra? My hands falling down. So, and then we say that in Russia, my hands have fallen down in a situation when I have done lots of effort, but I was not appreciated, but rather I was criticized for that. It means now I have no inspiration to move ahead. So many a time, people, they derive their inspiration from the vanity. From the vanity. If people say, oh, you're so good, then they move. So it makes us dependent actually on the environment. It helps us to socialize, but it makes us dependent on the environment. And also it's the negative thing of it is that we become imprisoned in our small personality. As you think, so you become. You think I. You don't think everything. So it becomes extremely difficult to expand. It becomes a hurdle in the spiritual path. So mystics, spiritual aspirants, they try to avoid that vanity feeling. They try to feel that whatever I do, it comes due to inspiration of the divine consciousness. So all the credit goes to divine consciousness. I am nothing but the instrument of that divine consciousness. So that feeling of being an instrument is is the cure for this vritti. Okay? And in yoga we practice a special lesson. It's called Madhuvidya. It's a special mantra that we receive before every action, and we believe that I'm not the doer, I'm just a performer, but the supreme entity, the divine consciousness, is doing this through me. I am part of the supreme harmony. I am an expressive tool of this supreme harmony. Okay? So Dambha, vanity. And then Dambha may grow, overgrow, and turn into another vritti, which is called Ahamkara. Ahamkara means ego. What is ego? The gist of this vritti is the feeling of rightness. I am right. This is ego. I am right. Is it positive or negative? Mostly negative. I am right. Self-righteousness. I am right, you are wrong. But it is also positive. Because when you listen to your heart and you understand something, then you have to arrive to certain convictions. I am convinced about something, and even if the whole world will say me, will object, I am still convinced about that. I still have that faith. I still have that, firmness in my mind. That is also ego. But that ego is saturated with spirituality. Strong mind means if you have no ego, there is no mind, there is no strength in the mind also. So strong mind is good. The ego is good. But that ego has to be saturated with spirituality. That ego has to be very flexible, and it has to move. It should not become static. It should not become stagnant. It should move like antelope. The ears have to always feel and see what is the right path, to deliberate what is the right thing, and then if this is right and I'm mistaken, immediately be ready to renounce your mistakes and correct the path. So that is Dambha. Otherwise it becomes, if it is moving to physicality and mundanity, or it is the worst of the worst qualities for the spiritual aspirant. Because if you are moving on the wrong path, and you are so convinced that this is the right path, this is the worst situation of all. And that's why, like people who start to practice yoga without any proper guidance, like they do forms of yoga such as Hatha Yoga, without really moral guidance and without meditation, the mind becomes strong, the energy becomes strong, they become so convinced. And then they're convinced of being right when actually they're wrong. So that's negative quality. And that's why the spiritual aspirant keeps his mind always open, because maybe I'm mistaken. Not maybe, most certainly I'm mistaken. Maybe today, okay, I'm less mistaken than yesterday, but still I'm mistaken. And I'm always ready to correct myself, always ready to embrace a new, more progressive path. So that is the cure for ego. Then there is three vrittis remains. Lalata, avarice. You come to a shop. I want this, and that. You don't need all those things. But your eyes open up. I want to take all those things. Sometimes people suffer. It may be positive. Like this Alexander the Great, he said, this universe has so many worlds, and I have not conquered yet even one. Expansion. When it's directed to physicality, it becomes greed. All sorts of, warrior mentality. I want to have it all. I have to become the lord of this earth. No? It is rather negative, everything. But it may be inspiring, moving you. creating inspiration, creating the ability to make an effort. Sometimes people, when they're depressed, they go to the shop and they buy this and that, they feel better. I have a friend like that. So that is the vritti. But if it is saturated with spirituality, it becomes what? It becomes vistara, the thirst for infinity. I want to become infinite. I want to sense the taste of infinity. Nothing less than infinity will satisfy me. Wonderful vritti, mystical vritti, beautiful expression of the mind. Then there is vitarka. Vitarka starts from, is actually argumentativeness. Argumentativeness is an extreme negative expression. What is this argumentative? You cannot agree with anybody. Even if someone is right, you just because it is not you have, brought forward that idea, you cannot agree. And you will say, yes, but. That but is such a bitter, sour point. It spoils the relationship. Yes, but. Because I just cannot accept that you are right. I have to be right. Comes from the ego. So that is extreme. Then less extreme is in a positive expression. In a positive expression is ability to share. To argue means what? Is to speak, to express your point of view. An ability to share means you can express your inner thought, feeling. I have a friend, sometimes we come together and we stay up to 1 o'clock in the night talking. What talking, I don't know. But my heart feels full after that. It's just a nice feeling to feel that someone completely understands you, shares your inner feelings and thoughts and inspirations. And that talk is called satsang, spiritual company. When you really agree upon something and you move together in a positive direction. That's very good. And then in the middle, between argumentativeness, negative and positive, there is talkativeness. I talk and talk and talk, I boast. And normally I talk about myself, my achievements, my this, my that, expressing the vritti of vanity. Through that talkativeness, becomes very boring person. Nobody wants to listen. So this is the range of expression. By becoming spiritual, you get rid of that argumentativeness, talkativeness. No need to talk. You will find that after meditating for so many years, you don't find any fascination to go in the internet and start, battle and fight and argue and prove your point of view. No need. You don't feel that. You're free from that. You want to do something else. You want to do some spiritual work. You want to do some constructive work. You don't want to argue. You don't want to do politics. You don't want to do, play the intrigues. Nothing. So how to overcome that? By satsanga. Satsanga means spiritual company. Spiritual company is when we come together in a very subtle communication and we share our spiritual states. We share our spiritual understandings by telling, reminiscing, telling spiritual stories, but not with the feeling of vanity that, oh, I have experienced this experience, I am such a great mystic. That will make you immediately the boaster, the donkey, and you become boring person. But in a very subtle way, if we share with the feeling of the heart, just, reliving that bliss that once we have experienced, reliving that bliss from realization, from the understanding that we acquired from philosophy, from the spiritual practice, and then sharing it, it becomes satsang. It's very subtle, very difficult to do satsang. But we try to do it on a regular basis by attending collective meditation. In collective meditation, many times we don't talk, but we meditate. We think together. and we share the spiritual states of our mind. And that is very, very important practice. And then final vritti. Final vritti is called kapatata. Kapatata is hypocrisy. Hypocrisy, what is hypocrisy? Is an ability to lie. Hypocrisy is to show the world your fake face. You're not like that, but you pretend to be like that. Means what? You are lying. You are lying to the world, and also you are lying to yourself. So this ability to lie is called kapatata. We all see the negative expression of this lie. This world now is drenched in lie. That's why there are so many problems in the economy, in the politics. Everything is lie, perpetrated by lie. Worst of the worst. The negative side is obvious, that when we lie, the supreme being is what? Is infinite truth. So more you lie, more you become far away from that truth. But, and also more you lie, the less the strength of your heart becomes. That experience we have. If you lie, your heart closes down. You don't have that energy anymore. Is there any positive expression? Yes, there is. If you don't know how to lie, how you are going to be? How you are going to follow satya, benevolent truthfulness? In 99% of the cases, we have to follow truthfulness. But sometimes, if you follow the truthfulness, you are going to harm. So in that case, you have to be aware and smart enough to find the right thing to do, the right path. Sometimes you have to lie for the benevolent cause, but it is very easy to lose the path. You may justify that, oh, I'm lying for the benevolent cause, but actually you are lying because of fear, because of prestige, and so on and so on and so on. So this vritti, when it is connected with viveka, with discrimination, with conscience, it becomes satya. If it is not connected, if it is connected with mundanity, with ego, with this, with that, it becomes lie, the worst of the worst vrittis. So yama niyama, moral principles of yoga, they teach us, practical teaching is there, how to avoid distortion of your heart. So 12 vrittis are there. Let me quickly go through them. Asha, hope. Kill the hope. The material hope, kill it. No need to hope for anything material. Transform the hope into the spiritual hope, that it becomes faith. Then worry. Kill the worry. Let it become vision, dreaming. See the new world that you came here to build. You have come to this earth to build a new world. You have come to this world to liberate this world from all sorts of suffering. Believe that. Envision that. Then your heart, you will see how your heart feels strong. Then chesta, effortfulness, endeavor. Feel what is right and never give up. And stubbornness, kill. Whenever you feel wrong, give it up. Okay? Mamata, mindness, love. Dambha, vanity. Move away from vanity. Feel that everything is the grace of the divine. Viveka, conscience, discrimination. That conscience discrimination by practicing yama niyama, moral principles. Oh, I didn't say also about conscience. Conscience is not only the following morality, but also finding purpose in life, to finding proper path. For example, you have come to study to be a lawyer, to be an engineer, to be a doctor, but you don't feel actually to be that. But everybody says that, oh, if you are going to get this profession, you are going to get lots of money. And you think, money is good. It's true. Money is not bad. But for that money you exchange your destiny, your purpose, your true happiness is not worth it. We have to find what is your path. What is really the path? Oh, how to do that? First in meditation. I felt my destiny in meditation. When I was doing deep meditation for prolonged many months, I had a chance really to go very, very deep in meditation. From inside I felt my destiny is like that. I have to do this. Everybody opposing was opposing, but then I had the courage to go. And then I became so happy. I never regretted that choice that I once took. So following the path, following your destiny is very important. And then it also is a gift, actually. To follow the destiny is a gift, is a gift of God. But it's not just you have to deserve it. For that you have to become selfless. Selfless. If you are ready to live for the well-being of all the beings of the world, if you are ready to dedicate your life for the service, then you will find your destiny. Before that, if you feel here, I want this, I want that, selfish motives, you won't be able to find your destiny. You won't be able to find your purpose. So to find your purpose, you have to give up something. Like one time, I was watching the television. One program was there, not on television. I saw it like a video in the computer. There is one rock singer. I love him. He's a very good man. So there was an interview, and during the interview, the call has come to the studio, and someone has asked, "Yura, do you think with rock music you can make money nowadays? Is it possible to become rich with that?" He told to him, "Give this up. Never do music. Rock is a freedom. It's not about money. It's about freedom. If you don't feel that, don't spoil the music. Don't touch it. Don't abuse it." I like it very much. So many things we have to give up to find our destiny, to find our purpose. Before you admit that, you fool yourself. If you think that, oh, I want to find my destiny to make lots of money, no, it's not working like that. Of course, everything will come, because if you find your destiny, then you become very good, very efficient at that, and then you become very much rewarded. But if you think for that reward, it will not come. You have to be ready for penance. You have to be ready for suffering. You have to be ready for, period of, intense struggle. Then you will find your path. Then you will be able to discover your purpose, discover your destiny. And then you will say, I am the happiest person on this earth. Okay? Then Vikalata is the depression. Depression overcome through love and service and physical exercises. Ahamkara, ego, being convinced about something. Lalata, avarice. Avarice will overcome through spiritual avarice. Believe that you want to become infinite. Try in your meditation to capture the spiritual realm. Then Kapatata, hypocrisy. Just now we discussed, I think you remember. Connected with the inner benevolence. Then Vitarka, argumentativeness. Through satsang, you can overcome it. And then Anutapa, repentance. By admitting your mistake, you will overcome repentance, and by taking penance. Okay, most of the things I told already, so let us quickly see how to develop Anahata chakra. The Vritis we finished. Now, how to develop Anahata chakra? Asanas, very good. very efficient. At least half of the problem, if there is some heaviness, pain in the heart, at least half of the problem may be reduced through physical exercise. Asanas such as Cobra, Halasana, Shivasana, Ardha Shivasana, Tejasana, Matsyendrasana, Bhavasana, very interesting chakra, both developing this and this chakra. You check out in my channel, they will be in the playlist also, that one. Maybe not yet now, but it will come soon. Bhavasana, Utkata Paschimottanasana, Karmasana, what do you call it? Padahastasana. These asanas, basically the asana, Dhanurasana, Chakrasana, these asanas which will bend, expand and twist the chest, they are good for Anahata. They're good for Anahata. And then there is a breathing exercise called Vayavi Mudra. You are sitting, imagining that while you are breathing in, there is a prana, the vital force of the cosmos entering your Anahata chakra. And while breathing out, you are letting it go and it is merging with the infinite ocean of prana. And then you do 7 breathing in, 7 breathing out, like this. Breathing in and then breathing out. Very excellent exercise. If you are completely empty, unable to move, unable to make an effort, that is curing Anahata chakra. Very good exercise. Then all kinds of exercises, running, going to the mountains, when you sweat, intense physical exercise is very good for Anahata chakra. It's very good. Breathing, full yogic breathing. I already taught you in the basic course. You utilize the entire volume of the lung to breathe. In this way, you will inhale, ingest lots of prana, vital energy, and immediately restore Anahata chakra. Breathing, asana, breathing, full yogic breathing, then this particular breathing, pranayama is good for Anahata chakra. Then being truthful, the most important for Anahata chakra. Being truthful. When your thought, words, and action is one. Develops, makes Anahata chakra powerful, strong. Following yama niyama, moral principles of yoga, also very, very important. I experience, especially if you meditate a lot, your mind becomes subtle and sensitive. Just a subtle, subtle transgression of the morality gives you pain. Immediately you feel, and immediately you repent. So, in the further you move in spirituality, the more important it becomes, the moral principles. Then, most important, singing of mantra. Actually is good for Vishuddha chakra also. But for Anahata chakra, special practice I taught you in the basic course, which is called Lalita Marmika, the dance, where you open hands like that. You dance and sing. That will cure every kind of complex in the mind. Over the years, over the time, it will cure inferiority, superiority, fear, guilt complexes. Heart becomes pure. So that practice very important for a yogi. You check in the basic course, it's called Lalita Marmika dance, and there I explain all the biopsychology of the dance, why it is so powerful, very powerful. Then collective meditation. Without collective meditation, in the present world is extremely difficult, almost impossible to maintain the spiritual flow. So, need to join a group of meditators where you sing Bhavanam Kevalam, you sit for meditation, you share your spiritual state. There is a resonance, synergy. Your energy merges with the energies of others and multiplies. If you attend a collective meditation 7 days after that, the mind will be strong. The mind won't be affected by the mundane world. Normally we get affected. We talk to the people and then we receive their state of the mind. And people don't meditate. They are materialists, most of them. So you also become a materialist, day by day. But if you do collective meditation, your mind becomes so strong that instead of becoming materialist, you make them spiritualists. And then you are transforming your environment becomes very, very good. Like nowadays, I feel that I live in paradise because of the people, not because of the physical condition, but because of the people, inspired people around. But why did it happen? Because collective meditation, I kept myself strong, and then also I found inspiration to inspire others. So collective meditation is very, very important. Without that, Anahata chakra cannot remain. It will flip out of that. Viveka will slip, and then you will fall into the material path, and then you are gone. You will turn back to the degeneration. So to keep with the spirituality, must maintain spiritual company. Satsanga. Talking too much will empty Anahata chakra. So maintain Maunavrata, the practice of silence. Even before, like you wake up 6 o'clock in the morning, until 9, don't talk. Do your spiritual practices. Also very good. And then less talking, the better. If talking, then something inspiring. Not nonsense things, not material things, but something really, the visions, the big things. That is worth talking. Because in that, you inspire others, you get yourself inspired, your heart is full. So that is okay. Maunavrata. Dances. Yoga dances are very efficient in cure of Anahata chakra. Dance of Kaushiki. Female dance. Dance of Tandava. Male dance. Tandava dance. Powerful. You know, hands are like that. Maybe you have seen the dance of Shiva. There are, you know, the sculptures where the Shiva is like that. So that is Tandava dance. The hands represents the strength of the heart. So the outstretched hands like that, they represent the strength of the heart. The hands want to fall like this. But you keep them and then you jump. You try to overcome the gravitation. Women should not do it because the male hormones are secreted and the beard starts to grow. So no need. But for male is very good. Tandava dance. Asanas. Service. Very important to do service. Make it as a practice, at least once a week. Should not do everything for yourself. There are many types of services. I will make another class on that. Serve by physical force, helping somebody, caring for somebody, by finances, by your intellect, by your good advice, by your knowledge, and then finally by your physical force protecting somebody. But service, somehow, anyway, later on will be the detailed video on that. But service is very important in spiritual life. Without service, Anahata chakra remains constricted. Accept everything as mine. Then keep mind open. Don't become convinced over things. You keep it open. Maybe I'm mistaken, and I'm always ready to accept the truth. Be ready to accept mistake, and then if mistake is committed, then unknowingly, unconsciously, then ask for rectification. Be ready to take a penance to rectify yourself. Yeah. And then don't argue. Don't argue. Rather, instead of arguing, listen and try to find something inspiring in what person says. And then maintain the satsang, the spiritual environment, spiritual company, then Anahata Chakra will thrive. So there is human life is described as a position. You are standing in the bank of the river, at the bank of the river. One hand is on the bank, another hand is in the river. If you stay, the water will take you and carry. If you move one step, you will come to the firm surface. You will be safe. So humanity is this transitional stage between animality and divinity. If we remain where we are at the animal stage, in the mundanity, in the physicality, the river will take us. Our heart will turn. Our infinite thirst will move into physical realm and we will degenerate. We will first degenerate at the level of the mind, and then after that we acquire animal body also. We degenerate to the stage of animals. But if we make one step, if we try to listen to our heart, if we try to listen to our purpose, to our destiny, if we try to follow morality, if we try to practice spirituality, practice meditation, meditation is the most important for the heart, then we come to the firm surface of spirituality. We become established in spirituality, and we become established in bliss. Animal stage there is suffering, but not so much. Is a kind of, like in the biblical parlance, it is stage of paradise, undeveloped conscience. Then, when we take the apple from the tree of knowledge, we start to distinguish between right and wrong. That stage of humanity, paradise lost. We lose the paradise. And that is the stage of strife and struggle. We have to struggle against our animal nature, transform that animal nature into divinity. And then the spirituality is when we return back to the paradise, when we overcome our ego and we established in the firm ground of spirituality. So this is the challenge of Anahata Chakra. If not, same like in the if the Anahata Chakra fails to teach us the proper path, then we are getting destroyed. Just like the cells of the blood in the training center of the thymus gland. Thank you very much for listening to such a long lecture. I will release it in 3 parts and also in one big video. I think it was very crucial if you try to see it again and again, and then you will absorb that, and then you will see, because I didn't say even 1/4 of what I have to say about that, but I give this task for yourself. Try to observe and discover for yourself the nature of the human mind. Thank you very much.